Welcome to Gray Overload, and we got more news to cover this week, and we're going to start off with one that hopefully fixes the frying issue on Asrock boards, which is they have a new BIOS update, 3.5 or 350. I don't know why I was going to add the dot in there, but I'm hoping that Asrock finally irons this out and stops frying CPUs. Am I going to use an Asrock board anytime soon? Probably still no, but they haven't really communicated much, and from what I'm reading, Video Cards had this, and on their site I was looking at it. They don't say anything besides they updated the AGES to combo AM5 1.2.0.3.g, and okay, does that mean that you made any other adjustments? Maybe, fix some things? Heck, maybe did some more testing, more tweaks to make sure that we're in compliance so that you won't fry your CPU. Anything? No, they decided not to do that. The biggest disappointment with all of this is that they have not been focused on communication, and it's made me start to not ignore them. And I've had a couple of ASRock boards. You can go on this channel and see that I like them. I used it a lot, and they work quite well. It was in the 550, I think it was, B550. And now, since the 600 series, really not a board that's been, in my consideration, reliable. And it's a big disappointment to me. But let's jump into some more positive news here, which is AMD is enabling a few things for ROCm 6.4.4 for the 7000 and 9000 series. This is going to be Windows Pytorch support. So we're finally getting there. We're finally getting a lot more full Windows support, or getting to full Windows support. And this is where, a lot of people have been curious about or pushing for here on the ROCm side, right? You have a lot of the whole, MI300 and stuff. MI350 now will be out. MI325, right? A lot of that support, and of course that's running a lot of Linux. But there are users that use Windows, with the 9000 GPUs. Even you can go to the AI 300 series Strix processors, and now that is, if you're running Windows, you got some more support there with Pytorch. As they round out the support to be able to compete with Nvidia, it is good for them to keep on pushing forward and get this a well-rounded system, because it only helped them in the competitive marketplace as people pick up their cards, and it seems like they do have some momentum behind there. They will be able to deliver those, and at least deliver to consumers a little bit of better support throughout the stack, knowing that we are going to be supported on all platforms our users are on. Maybe one day we're all Linux anyways, but that day is not the day, so you got to throw some support behind Windows, because otherwise people will be asking for it. And well, that's how it goes, right? Is that people want it wherever they're at, right? And I'm hoping that we continue this. So I think that's actually it for everything in AMD this week. Let's see. Let's jump over to Nvidia. This was an interesting one. Nvidia has something open sourced for game devs too, which is shocking to me. It's a different approach. That have they actually done this? I don't think they really have fully done it for like an initial release. But the audio to face is it's real-time character animation stuff is all now open source for game devs. This is pretty interesting, right? So the SDK and everything is there, and I'm interested to see how it kind of goes through and works with games, how people go through and use it, right, in games, which could be pretty fun to see overall. Now, let's jump over to where Nvidia has something, or a lot of something, which is money, right? Money is green all over the place in the Nvidia, uh, what do you call it? Castle? I don't know. They have a lot of it, right? Well, I think they're still the most valuable company right now, and so it looks like that they will be doing a deal with OpenAI, $100 billion. There's going to be a 10 gigawatt AI factory, or a total of that. This is, Nvidia is getting their hands into these data centers. This came as a little bit of a surprise to me or a lot of a surprise, or medium surprise, I'd say, because, OpenAI was so adamant to make sure we are going to have our own chips. We're going to develop those, and here we are. Is there a slight change, slight delay in those chips? Do they have to use Nvidia products or whatever's out there because they're having roadblocks? Opens up some serious questions to me about where they are here, but they're probably going to still push forward and use that Nvidia capital, because right now the AI the AI side of things is not slowing down, and I don't expect it to. I expect it to continue just to keep on rolling for at least a little bit longer. But that was 100 billion right there. Nvidia, putting 5 billion in Intel, 100 billion, OpenAI. They got some cash to invest, and I'm sure that what they want to be is at the forefront of all of these. And if AI were to stumble, that would not be good for their business. So what they're trying to do is make sure that there's still a lot more effort behind there to keep this going, so AI doesn't falter, because that could be, if it does, it would be devastating to Nvidia financially. So I think, even if it were to come down, I think that they'd still be in a better place, but financially that would take a major hit. Now, one thing I did like to see this week is that I noticed WCCF Tech did have an article saying a couple prices have gone to MSRP or even dropped slightly below MSRP. So the 5060 Ti 8 gig, yeah, is 309, and then the 5080 RTX 5080 has dipped right below MSRP. If those are cards you're looking at and the models you want are starting to dip like that, that's a good sign. We're getting to a life cycle where prices are coming down, which we always like to, or I always like to see, right? Like those prices to dip a little bit easier in the pocketbook. If you've waited this long, then you're going to be have something a little bit cheaper all over the place. So that is it, I think, for Nvidia this week. I think I'm on to Intel next. And what do we got for Intel here? This was an interesting one from Intel. Intel, I believe, let's see here. Yeah, I'm on this one. So they branched off the 11th and 14th gen GPU drivers for their CPUs and stuff. So the Core and the Arc series, or the Arc and the Core Ultra series are no longer part of the Core, like 11th to 14th gen Core GPU drivers. And at some time this had to happen, but does this go into an area where they finally are able to push Arc a little bit more, get those drivers more well-rounded, get them supporting more games, less issues? With the deal with Nvidia, it kind of makes you kind of stand off, especially on the GPU side. It'll be interesting to see how Intel addresses this in the coming months and years, right? You expect to have Nvidia GPU tiles at some point. If that happens, where is Intel GPU tiles? Are they going to be around, or do they just evaporate over time, and then this driver gets to be just as bad as it was? Which, if they want to be in the handheld of an integrated of their GPU, they need to keep this going to be able to compete with AMD and where they're at now. And who knows? At some point, I really think that Nvidia is going to get the ARM chip right and have a console-like device, handheld-like device that has an ARM chip, unless for some reason they get an x86 license. I think that this investment in Intel is so that they get an x86 license at some level. But then if if they go down that path, I really think that they still have ARM, but I don't think that they're going to be committed to ARM in the long term, because they do have some. They must have ran into some issues that they think of that aren't really fixable over in a long term. Because otherwise, why would you go down this road? I'm a little bit weary of kind of where they've been at here. So let's see. Did I miss something here with, I was talking about Intel. Yeah, so, whoops, I got too many tabs open. But let's see here with Intel. This is an interesting one. So XESS, right? Where is that? It was Intel's thing to be all over the place, open source. Everyone gonna be using it. Open, one API was there too, right? All this stuff. And yeah, is multi-frame Gen coming? WCCF Tech had this article, and they said that there's multi-frame Gen stuff, but it's all commented out in the code. Maybe they're still testing it, but I do have some questions about it. How committed are they going to be into dumping in money, right? They have money from Nvidia now to kind of infuse their company, but that doesn't mean that they're going to have enough money overall, right? They still got to pay off debt and everything else. So that's one thing where I'm going to be keeping my eye on it, because I don't know how much they're going to be able to really put the pedal to the metal with all these things and all these technologies when you have an Nvidia tile coming down the road, unless the Nvidia tile is kind of going to keep them afloat while they make money off of it to be able to do their own stuff, which more power to them if they go down that route. But Intel seems to be putting in or getting a lot more ASML um, EUV equipment for the high end here in North America. It looks like that they're trying to really push that. North America units from, this is from Jerry's Capital, North American units are going from 8 to 10, with Intel increase from 1 to 2, and SK Hynix increase from 1 to 2 as well. That's pretty good. Maybe Intel's trying to get their fab plants back on track. Maybe part of the $5 billion deal is to make sure that those fabs are up and running so that they can really compete with some of the stuff TSMC has here in the United States, and then Nvidia can make that U.S. made chip, which I'm sure the U.S. government would be very pleased about. So let's just talk about GPUs a little bit more, but Innosilicon, right, they're going to have another GPU out, DirectX 12, and this is the first GPU with hardware ray tracing support, their first GPU, and the first Chinese GPU with it. They got DirectX 12 here. They also have Vulkan 1.2, OpenGL 4.6, and you can have up to 6 8K displays. I'm sure that's not all gaming, but that's pretty cool what they've been able to do and get this out there. They're trying to compete in the world of Nvidia. I guess they're starting to get there to be able to compete with them, but it also has RISC-V CPU integration. So they're also getting some AI stuff, right? If they can do this and be some AI stuff, that'll benefit them in the long run, which is what the Chinese government also wants. So one thing I was looking at too here was Apple. I saw this in WCCF Tech, and Apple seems to be wanting to make sure that TSMC uses all their capacity on them, because I was reading and I was like, wow, more than half of the 2 nanometer is all going to Apple for the capacity. Well, they have a whole plant that they've booked. I guess, they need a lot of chips. And TSMC is going to be raking in the money, right? If you want 2 nanometer, you're going to be begging in TSMC, well, maybe even begging Apple, because Apple's using all of everything there. So let's see what else we have. Let's go to Microsoft now. Let's talk about a few Microsoft things. Let's first talk about the Microsoft thing that's really interesting, I really like, which is they have a microfluid technology. And this microfluid is not for just being on the outside of the chip. This is something that they're working to try to put through the chip, like AI chips, to help cool the chips down overall. If they do it right, that could help make the chips be a little bit cooler. They're saying they're saying it can cut the maximum CPU temperature rise by 65%. So that must be a longer rise over time, I'm guessing. But maybe it can keep it even cooler, but then can that also increase the longevity of the chip? That would be actually something really cool to be able to have implemented, because even in our systems, if you can depending upon how this all is, right? It's pretty simple just to slap a cooler on cold plate on top of the chip and have all the heat dissipate through the top, and that goes through, right? You start hooking up stuff to everything, that's another point of failure and everything else. But if you get like this, especially in data center, and it improves, well, this could be one thing where all of a sudden it makes a lot of sense for different consumers, especially those in the data center that would like to have longer longevity out of stuff before they have to go through an upgrade and spend more money, right? And spend a lot of money. But on the Microsoft topic here, this was another good thing, which is Microsoft uh, working with or talking to U.S. publishers about a program. Currently, it's only in pilot. Neowind had this as well, and they were talking that the publishers can have a marketplace. So you can basically put in your content, and then as the system uses, the AI uses it, that would then pay publishers as their content is used by that AI, which is, I think, a pretty reasonable. Might actually help out the Microsoft AI side of things. One can only tell to where that's going to go to, but right, publishers do want to have their content or creators. So, but that can be used for AI, and so Microsoft would benefit with having more people maybe use their AI, more people recommend it because they'd be getting paid for it. Could be a win for them and for the content. Now we all know that Windows 11 24H2 has had blocks galore since it's been released. Microsoft did a really bad job testing it, in my opinion, to get through those blocks. And now they lifted another one when we got 25H2 almost coming, and they're still lifting off blocks. Now this is with some DRM, DHCP playback issues. But, oh wait, got my artists mixed up. We'll first go with the blocking, then we'll talk about that DRM issue, which is the blocking is some buggy camera apps and other apps that rely on some of the uh, DRM stuff blocks have been lifted, so you can finally get the update. The safeguard ID of this was 533400062 if you're an IT admin. And so some of these have been lifted for that camera app, facial recognition, hello, all this stuff that is used in that. This finally is able to update right in time for you to get blocked for 25H2, right? That's how it's going to go. But back to the DRM thing. So there's a Windows 11 update, which two of them, which broke the DRM and HDCP video playback. So, yep, another great Microsoft update. Do all that testing, make sure you deliver a great product. Yeah, that's what Microsoft's committed to. So, let's see, what else do we have here? I think we're into the gaming side of stuff, which is really kind of cool to get to. And let's end on the gaming side of things, which is first going to be Forza Horizon 2026 will be the release, and it looks pretty cool. Looks like it's going to be in, what was it, Japan, I think. Well, with Japan serving as the next open world location. So here we go. It was announced at Xbox Tokyo Game Show, and get ready for this. Get ready to have some fun there if that is something you are open to. This was a really big one, which is EAA going to go private, or maybe, right? This is a $50 billion buyout, which happens to be less than Activision Blizzard King, but that Microsoft dealt with. But $50 billion to go private with private investment. What was it? There's a private investment company, equities, including the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund as well, Silver Lake. I don't know. Like, does this make them better? Maybe. Are we going to see them have better changes going in the future, making sure that they focus on gamers, which is what I would like to see. Again, maybe, but if they don't, I'm going to be kind of sad. So I guess we'll see what this all is, how it comes out in the end. But if it benefits gamers, I'm all for it, right? More content, better games, better effort in the games, uh, great. If not, oh, this sucks, right? That's how I'm going to approach this right now. At least it's not going to Microsoft, right? After what they've all bought, this is probably a thing that is probably good because, heck, maybe some games see the axe. But Borderlands 4, and this has been a released game, slightly controversial on performance side of things. My friend's been running it just fine, he says. I still need to launch the game. I have not done that yet. I need to get to it. It's been a really busy couple of weeks since I said I was going to do that. I did not expect to be this busy. Um, but this will not be coming to the Nintendo Switch by October, what was it, like 4th or something, 3rd? So if you were hoping for your Switch 2 to have Borderlands 4, that will not be there. In fact, they will be canceled. Pre-orders will be canceled if you bought digital pre-orders there as well. They don't know when the release date is going to be. This is a concerning. Um, if you're for the Switch, this is kind of concerning. This is also concerning to me as somebody that was just looking at it, and I'm looking at it from the aspect of, okay, you had this kind of going. You probably knew that you'd be close or something to that October 3rd. Maybe you're waiting to try to get it out and maybe delay it. And maybe you're just going to say, we want to make this right. But to me, it kind of seems that with some of the performance um, issues that you had and that were displayed for some reviewers and stuff that are out there, that you are now more concerned about that and getting it a little bit right there and getting those ironed out before you continue on the path of porting this and getting this working on the Switch. That's kind of my approach. We'll see how this all rolls out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, you know, November or December they're going to come out with this. But the fact that they're canceling the pre-orders kind of starts to point me into we have some bigger issues to deal with first. We'll come back to the Switch at a later time. It's just not going to be right now. And then what else we got here? We're going to end on this. WCCF Tech had this, and they are talking about really trying to push Game Pass. Now, they want to make even more things in Game Pass, more things behind Game Pass, invest more into Game Pass, right? They pull in about $5 billion into Game Pass. I don't know if that's enough for everything with all the games in there or not. I just don't know. But they have over 150 partners on the catalog. I guess if you have Game Pass, let me know how you guys like it. I just don't play enough, so I go buy the game and then, play it there when I have time. Because otherwise, Game Pass makes sense if the games you play are in it, and you play enough of that. So, and you play enough games through there. Otherwise, I don't, it doesn't make sense for me monetarily wise. So, maybe this is a way for Microsoft to really put it through. I still, at any point do they say, if you're on Windows, we want your game to be on Game Pass? We sell maybe a Game Pass thing through Steam or whatever else, and you have access to the library, but you have to buy Game Pass for the games. I hope that doesn't come like that. That would be a little bit too much, especially other consoles that maybe would force them to say, we're still just going to sell the game itself. We don't want the whole Game Pass subscription, or to have somebody to figure that out through our software, right? But Microsoft really likes this games as a subscription thing, and it seems to be working for them quite well. But that is all I have for you this week. Let me know if there's anything else that I missed or that you would like me to talk about. I think that there's a lot of cool stuff going on in tech right now. We got some game stuff that's going to be coming out with GTA 6 at some point. There's a lot of stuff there, but I do really appreciate you guys supporting the channel Gray Overload and helping this channel grow. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell icon, as it really does help with the channel. Until next time, God bless.